You got gloves on, John?
I don't have gloves. I'm not going to touch it.
Is the helmet coming here?
The helmet is
oh,
coming,
fantastic!
fantastic.
Fantastic!
Yeah, just momentarily. Yeah. So it's been sitting in the laundry room for 40 years.
In yours?
In my aunt's laundry room first, and my laundry room second for 40 years. And it was only 18 months ago that I saw your name in it. And
it's quite
here's
amazing.
What made you world famous.
May I touch it?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm just going to pop that there. So this will if I lift it off for you.
Sid, I'd like you to try it on.
Yes,
do you remember? Do you remember how to do it?
I'm sure we can work away. Let's have a go.
It's in your hands.
Okay.
You all right, you got it?
See, you remember. It's sideways. Good. You remember. There you are.
That's it.
He's a little short for a stormtrooper.
I was on stilts.
We needed to make Dave proud.
They had little chaps around me.
Isn't that fantastic?
It actually
43 years ago.
Actually, it's 44, isn't it?
Yes.
It was 75.
75, 76, yeah. Sid, thanks a lot for meeting me today. I just so appreciate it. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about the story of this helmet. In 1978, on October 15th, my aunt had a Star Wars party. She lived in a little village called Everton by Daventry, by Milton Keynes, kind of that area. And I don't really know much about it. It was an event that was raising some money, I think, for a children's charity. She was very horsey, and she had this Star Wars party. I don't know how it happened, but literally the cast and the crew of Star Wars were there. And there was this big event that happened. I have a lot of photos from that event, but I don't have them with me now.
Is this New Hope?
This is A New Hope.
The
yes.
New Hope, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was 78 was just between the two movies. So Empire Strikes Back, they were talking about it. They hadn't started filming. Mm-hmm. And I have no idea how this party happened. Everton is a very small village, really. And so recently, and my aunt was given this at the end of that party, sort of as a hostess gift or something. And it sat in her laundry room for 30 years.
That is amazing.
Until she gave it to me, and it's been in my laundry room for 10 years.
But it's a wonder she kept it, though, John.
It is a wonder she kept it.
I mean, why did she keep it?
It's extraordinary.
Was she fond of it, or?
Well, there was something special about it.
She had an instinct about it, I think.
She had an instinct, and maybe it was just a little bit out of her world, so she sort of enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The reason I have it, honestly, is at the time that my aunt was moving into an old age home, there was a lovely trophy that was given to my grandmother in 1920 that was very fragile and beautiful, silver, and I wanted to keep it. And I wrapped it in a towel, and I looked for something hard to stuff it in, and this is what I found. So I stuffed it in this helmet, and I put it in the overhead bin on the airplane, and that's where that scratch came from right there.
Oh, it wasn't from my fighting on
it wasn't
New
from
Hope.
you. And really, that's the only reason I have it, because I used it as a hard case for a trophy. And so I threw it in my laundry room, and I never had any notion that it was worth anything.
You had no instinct about it?
I had no instinct at all. My aunt had talked about the party, and she had some photos from the party, but my assumption was there were 3,000 or 4,000 of these made, and it was really not that important. But when Carrie Fisher died, I thought, I have all these lovely photos of Carrie Fisher at my aunt's house and sort of thing. So I started to look at the photos, and I thought, I should share these photos. They've been in a trunk for 40 years. I should start sharing these photos. And it was through that I realized sort of the importance of not only the photos, but also the helmet. So here's what I did. I thought, I'm going to go to Everton. It's a small village. I thought, I'm going to go to Everton. I'm going to see who remembers this. So I went to Everton. Of course, being an brash American, I walk into the pub and I would say, excuse me, who's the oldest in the pub? And eventually, so I'd wander over the oldest in the pub, and I said, do you remember a Star Wars party that happened here in Everton in 1978? And I was just met with a blank stare, and no. And I said, well, it happened, and I'm just curious, why, are you sure you don't remember it? And they would, no. And I'd say, well, that's funny, because I have some photos of it. And I'd produce these photos of the party, and suddenly everyone in the pub was walking over,
back to them.
And they saw themselves in these photographs. So they'd been at the party, but I think maybe Star Wars hadn't kind of taken off then, but somehow they were so disconnected from this party. Some people swore they weren't there. and ended up going
But
checking
they
their
were
diaries
there.
and
But they
found
were
out
there.
that they were there, and then produced photos of themselves there, though they'd completely forgotten about being there. So I was really intrigued by that.
At the time, was Star Wars as big as it is now?
No,
John?
I think it
wasn't so big,
It was
was it?
between the two films.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it was sort of a horsey set
Yeah,
meets
yeah, yeah,
science fiction, so I think
Yeah,
there was
yeah,
a
yeah,
disconnect
yeah,
there.
yeah.
But it's just been a fascinating history for me to sort of discover how important this piece is. And then literally, I mean, I've been trying this on every time I visit my aunt. I'd wear it, and if I brought friends, we'd all wear it and take photos and things like that, because it was really just sort of a piece of plastic. But it wasn't until about 18 months ago when I saw your name in it. And of course, you've seen your name in it. It's big letters and it's a little faded,
yes,
but it's
yes.
almost too big to see.
In yellow.
In a way,
yeah,
right? It's too
absolutely,
big to see.
Yes.
And then I thought, and I said, isn't that odd? And a friend of mine said, well, Google knows everything. Type in Syd Stormtrooper, and boom, here you come. And so
That's amazing.
Isn't that extraordinary? And here it is.
Extraordinary. It is.
42, 3, whatever years
And it's
later.
worth thousands of pounds. And you had no instinct about this.
No. I probably wouldn't have stuffed it in the overhead bin, maybe.
Couldn't you paint it that? Nobody would have known.
So I just think it's fascinating that I sort of has discovered the history of it, and I just think it's marvelous that you would come and have a look at it, because it made you world famous.
Well, it has.
Isn't it extraordinary?
Well, it's going to you as well, I think. It's amazing. It's totally amazing to me, and for the sum it's going to get.
We hope, yes.
£120,000 or more for this. What about me inside?
I remember too you talking about how awkward the helmets were to wear.
Well, they were.
And then inside, I was so surprised at how roughly it's finished. Maybe you could take a look at, and just look at. It's extraordinary to me the unfinished sharp pieces, the number of pieces in there. You're saying that stormtroopers are bleeding after wearing.
Oh, we were. Yes, we were. Can
Yeah, please.
Oh, yes, we were. The worst were when we were doing action, with the guns and trying to avoid bodies falling down. You usually got knocked down with them and got up again, but nobody knew it was you inside them anyhow.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it wasn't just the head; it was the knees, the back, the elbows, and the neck especially. That would be almost cut there. When we were eating lunchtime, we'd sit back like this, and the plate that comes up to here, it would cut into your Adam's apple here. But you got used to it. You adapt to anything if you have to. And that's how it was.
And you were saying it was one of the hottest summers.
It's one of the hottest summers ever, 1975 or 6. And it's the hottest summer ever until last year, I think. Until last year, wasn't it? 76, wasn't it? And it was hot. And beneath that, it wasn't just this. We wore black leotard, which was tight. So it was like a second skin. And you can imagine with the action, all the bombs going off. In fact, there was one situation where all the bombs went off, and they were so loud that the police came down and the fire engines came down from Elstree onto the set, thinking a bomb had gone off. And they stopped the shooting for that time to explain. And it was just us playing cowboys and silly things.
And I understand one of the other really awkward things is the lens for the eyes. And I know in the second film they used these same helmets and changed them a little bit and put proper eye pockets, but it's just literally just a light gel.
Yeah, and when you're moving along in action, this would jog about, so you couldn't see where you were going. So you just relied on your instinct and sound. Just follow the sounds. It actually seems smaller now than it did that on the day. God, it's so light, isn't it? I thought this was going to be heavier, actually. Amazing.
And you can see all the little paint touch-ups all along, because evidently they were repainted almost every day, touched up, because
this is from the set on the day.
Yes, because the paint sort of famously doesn't adhere to the sort of kayak material or whatever.
What is this made of, John?
Well, I understand that it was a kayak making company who made those. So it's sort of like a hard kayak.
Yeah.
Not fiberglass or some sort of...
It's like a pond liner.
pond liner, is it? Yeah, yeah.
It is light. That's the lovely thing about it. But as I said, it's the most uncomfortable suit I've ever worn on a film, but the most enjoyable film I've ever done. Quite easily. Just loved it. I love action, and I got plenty of it on this film. Plenty of it.
How did you get to work on Star Wars? What was the first time you heard about being called up for that?
I think I auditioned for it, actually. To be honest, I can't remember. I think I must have auditioned for it. I've always done martial arts, and I think they wanted fit people, to be inside this thing. And I think that's how I got the job, actually. I'm not sure, to be honest. But I'm glad I did audition for it. It's been a winner ever since.
Yeah. How did you feel about filming when you were actually filming it? Did you think it was going to be a
No. We thought on set the feeling was that this is a joke. It's not going to take off at all. It's a schoolboy fantasy, a bit of sci-fi, but schoolboy fantasy. And everybody would joke about it. And in fact, George Lucas, he was so unsure of its success that on the opening, the opening night, he went off to Hawaii with Steven Spielberg, afraid of what the papers would say about it. But I loved it, so he's been laughing all the way to the bank since. But that was the situation on the day.
Do you have any other particular memories of filming Star Wars?
I know it's fun. For me, it was fun. I love action in films, and I got lots of action on this. And it wasn't just the only job I did on that. I played an officer on it as well, with Peter Cushing. Well, I came out to Peter Cushing, and I had to say everything was okay. And he put his hand up and he waves me away. And that was it.
It's a piece of history, moment of history, though.
It was. It's a famous scene, actually, isn't it? When you see me walking up, and he puts his hand up, and I say something to him, a few words, and then I walk away. This piece of history, that one.
I want to just mention one more thing about the helmet here. One of the reasons that, I guess I was trying to figure out how to authenticate the helmet. And so I had these photos from my aunt's party, et cetera, and so forth, and I was looking, I actually considered, I can DNA test it because there's such sharp pieces of fiberglass in there. I know that your skin cells are still in there.
They're going to know all about me, aren't they? I can't hide anywhere.
But ultimately what happened is I contacted Brandon Ellinger, and he's with the prop store in Los Angeles. And I talked to him about having this, and he said he'd like to see it. And what was interesting to me is that he could take a photo of the front of this, and he could actually go back to the original film, and he can see, because these were all handmade, they're all just slightly different. And he could actually tell where you appear because of the slight paint chips, the slight cuts in the teeth. Each helmet is completely different. And that's how the helmet was authenticated. It's extraordinary that he could pull it up in that detail.
That's modern science, isn't it?
That's right. And literally the way the eyes are cut and the teeth are cut, each helmet is just a little bit different. See, this is missing. It should have one more cut here. That's not there. So he was able to...
Did it start off like that? Was it like that at the beginning?
Yes. But each one was handmade. So even these little drips of paint, I think there's a big drip right here. And that's how he authenticated it. It's that accurate on film.
This is quite amazing, isn't it? Yeah. And this is a work of art, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, it's a masterpiece, isn't it?
It is. And I think it's got to be one of the most iconic symbols on the planet.
No question, right? No question whatsoever.
Right.
It is. The whole thing amazes me, quite frankly.
I'd love to hear your poem.
Star Wars. My favourite film to work on was Star Wars, which was shot in the hottest summer on record, the summer of '76. I played a stormtrooper in the film, so I had to wear the famous guard suit, which was unquestionably the most uncomfortable suit I've ever worn in a movie. White hat, metal hard, it dug into every part of the body, especially when running or leaping about to avoid the enemy's fire. But despite the suit from hell and the sauna-like heat in the studio, I enjoyed every minute of working on the movie. Everyone was so friendly, even the assistants, who often treated actors with contempt. When the film was being made, few people on set thought it would amount to much. let alone become one of the biggest blockbusters of all time. Even George Lucas was so unsure of his baby that he ducked its opening and fled to Hawaii, where he hoped his buddy Steven Spielberg would comfort him if the critics panned it, which some seem foolish today, as it turned out to be one of the most successful movies of all time. Critics, they get it wrong so many times. Pompous bores. May the force be with you.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
Was it okay?
This is wonderful. Great, great. And you said you had other pictures.
Yeah.
See, they all have different. See the different angles in the brows and things like that. They're each one's.
I got my main one actually.
Yeah, yeah. See that? See, they all have
Yeah,
different
yeah.
angles in the
Of course,
brow.
yes. Yeah,
See, so
yeah.
that's how they can. That's one of the ways they can check to see which one's which.
Ah,
there
the
you are.
conventions.
Yeah. Isn't that fun?
This is the space buggy. Me,
Ah, right.
Mark.
Ah, yes.
They were lovely. They were lovely to work with, actually,
Right.
all of them. Absolutely fun. We became mates, all of us. Who was this, Dean? I've never known who this was. She got off the space buggy and went to him.
It is a costume, isn't it? It's not. It's
That's
not.
it.
Was he
yeah.
the uncle of somebody? Don't know who that is.
Oh, yes.
It's just a lovely photo.
This is you.
She's so lovely.
This is you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's the one that we were able to screen match with this.
That's amazing. Which one? That one?
This one. This one.
Show how short Carrie was, right?
Yeah, I put that in because she was so lovely.
Oh, yeah,
actually.
yeah.
And that's the space buggy
Ah,
again.
right. Okay, and that's you.
Yeah, yeah. And me there.
That's
We're
right.
going under the planes. There's more of it. And that's going under the planes.
Oh.
I put that in because he was a lovely guy.
Mm-hmm.
Chewbacca.
Is that Peter Mayhew?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
He's dead now, you know.
So he was another one who was at the party. This
Oh, was
that
he?
I was saying,
Was he?
yeah. And David Prowse and
for him.
Mhm.
Yes, at the time, before he moved to Texas.
yeah. Oh, look at those! Those are brilliant.
Lovely shots, aren't they?
Oh, this is so lovely.
Yeah, isn't it? So tall.
Mm-hmm.
You're in shot on one of these, aren't you?
I
So
see.
you're
Yeah,
walking
yeah,
in that
yeah.
direction.
Did a lot of hand shots. I spent a week doing hand shots in the planes.
You were a TIE fighter.
Yeah,
pilot
yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
I doubled up
I
for
don't think
all
we
of
have-
them. Double
I
up
don't
for
think
all
we
of them,
have that on
actually.
record.
I don't know if they have. I wish they had because.
So
I did
that's
a-
you.
Yeah, yeah. We did at least a week of doing hand shots and pilot, you know, in the galaxies, in the fights.
And we can go through this. Well, then, who's this?
John, with your
Look at
glasses.
that.
Who's that? Who's
Look
that?
at that. Very sharp. Whew.
Not bad, is it?
No, it's fantastic. Look
And
at
that's
that.
that's the one. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
actress.
Yeah. Isn't that just stunning?
But that's a
There you are
spares-
out in
there's a
there.
spares
Yeah.
again.
Great.
I was never sure about this one, Dean.
Yeah.
What was I doing in
that? That was the uniform. I've got a colour. Yeah,
That
colour
one there?
version.
Yeah,
Technically,
yeah.
it's a navy trooper, and you have a massive
Yeah.
black dome helmet,
That's right,
a
that's
really
right.
wide one.
Yeah.
And we also
Mm-hmm.
have
At the conventions,
Allen-
they never show that, do they?
No.
Conventions- I mean,
It's nuts.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'll just put him behind there. It's fine.
Well, that was actually something I was going to ask you, Syd, was how do you feel now that the interest today about Star Wars and the values of the memorabilia? I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, I find it totally amazing. I mean, to go from hundreds of thousands of pounds, a little white hat like that, with my DNA on. So I'm a marked man. I'm going to be.
Well, it's funny because I have a different take.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you take Andy Warhol's Can of Soup,
Yeah.
okay, and he's made, everyone knows there's 30 prints that he made. He didn't actually make them, his studio made them, right? But they still sell for 18 million US dollars. And then you look at these, which were the same thing. They were handmade by an artist. The design was handcrafted by an artist. And then they had essentially studio people come out and make them and paint them and everything else. And you wonder why, if an Andy Warhol print that there's multiple copies of sells for 18 million, and this is much more identifiable than a Campbell's Soup Andy Warhol print, to me, I think it's actually kind of very reasonable.
Actually, so do I, now you put it like that. I mean, it is. It's a little masterpiece.
Right,
actually.
and it's a question of art and...
It is art. It is art.
It is. It's sculpted by someone who's well-known, we know who sculpted it, and I find that
is it seen
odd.
as art by other people, or is it just
Well,
people who know about its
Well, the funny
history?
thing is to me, because then is it art or is it an artifact? Because now if it's an artifact, again, it should change the value of what it is, right? Because you think of certain artifacts like that sit in the New York Museum of Fine Art or whatever, there's certain things that have been categorized as an artifact, which have immense value. So in some ways, I don't understand why something this iconic is really only worth 100 or so thousand pounds to me. I'm not trying to sound greedy.
No,
it's
no,
just
no,
an
no, no.
interesting, this has got to be one of the most recognized symbols on the planet.
You've got to publicise your views more. Widen them more. You know.
I should have done it
No,
before.
you must
I should have done it before I
have,
decided to put it in the
because you
auction.
put a convincing case for their worth, which I've never heard
Mm-hmm.
before, and you put a convincing case. So that's going to have more publicity,
Mm-hmm.
go global with it on the net,
Mm.
you know, get it well
Mm-hmm.
well known everywhere. But it is a little masterpiece. It's like,
It is.
like a little Titian.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Syd, I know you've missed this for 40 years. It made you world famous. And the good news is, if you'd like, you can buy this. This is coming up for auction. The auction's held at BFI IMAX in London. It's September 30th, October 1st, and it's through the prop store. You can come and purchase the helmet and enjoy it for the rest of your life.
Well, I wish I could. And how much do you say it might be going for? Its potential value?
The pre-sale estimate is, I don't even know, sorry.
It's 120 to 180,000 pounds is the estimate.
120 to 180,000 pounds. Well, if I work for a couple of weeks with you guys, maybe I can afford it.
Yeah, yeah.
It sounds okay.